In a March 2010 poll of 1,600 American adults, 1,088 described themselves as totally happy. This category included both very happy and somewhat happy responses. Use StatCrunch to construct a 95% confidence interval for the proportion of American adults who describe themselves as totally happy. First of all, we need to determine the best point estimate. Remember, the best point estimate is constructed as p-hat. P-hat is going to be the number of successes, which is 1,088, and sometimes we refer to that x value as the number of successes. Divided by the total number, which is 1,600. And often we refer to that as n, which is our sample size. Next, it asks to find the margin of error for a 95% confidence interval. We're going to come back to that problem. C. Construct the 95% confidence interval for the proportion of American adults who describe themselves as totally happy. With this, we're going to notice that we're going to construct a confidence interval for the proportion of American adults. So we have to figure out the lower limit and the upper limit. On StatCrunch, we're going to have to do the following. You might want to write these directions down. We're going to go to Stat, and then we're going to go to Proportion Stat. One sample. With summary. So let's do this on StatCrunch. Go to Stat. We're going to go to Proportion Stats, one sample, and then we're going to choose with summary. If you were to have data already typed in StatCrunch, you would use the with data portion. So we're going to do with summary. Now we're going to have to type in the number of successes. The number of successes in this case we already said was 1,088. Let's type in that number. So 1088 under number of successes. Number of observations is our n, which is our sample size, which is 1,600. Then under perform, we can either choose a hypothesis test or a confidence interval. We're going to select the confidence interval for P button. Our confidence level in this case is 95%, so we're going to leave our level as 95%, and we're not going to change our methods. So go ahead and hit compute. On our screen, I'm going to scroll over, and we can see our lower limit and upper limit. This is how I want to write it out. The way I like to write it out is our proportion, P, is going to be in the middle, and on our left-hand side, we're going to write our lower limit of 0.65, we'll do 4 decimal places, 0.6571, and on our other side, we have our upper limit, which is 0.7029. So we can see that our proportion is between now 0.6571 and 0.7029. So now we gotta just go ahead and write our statement from here. Our statement's going to say, we gotta state how confident we are. We are 95% confident the population proportion of all adults who consider themselves happy is between, and this is where we're going to write the decimals and the percents, 0.6571, which is 65.71%, and 0.7029, or 70.29%. I like writing the percentages as well as the decimals. Now it says, can we safely say that more than half of American adults describe themselves as totally happy? The answer to this would be yes. And the reason why is because both percentages are above 50%. So we can safely say, if one of those was below 50%, we could not safely say that the population percentage would be above half. So last thing that we're going to do, we need to come back and do our margin of error. Our margin of error, notice StatCrunch does not calculate that out. So we can either use our formula or use our understanding in this fact. P hat is 1088 divided by 1600. And if you were to have done that on your calculator, you would realize that that's 0.68 or 68%. You can probably tell that 68% would fall right in the middle of that. So what we can do is take 0.68 and subtract off the lower limit, 0.6571. Let's just go ahead and pull up the calculator here. And on our calculator, just 0.68, mine 0.6571. We hit enter, and we have our answer of 0.0229, or 2.29%. So think about it. If I were to take the 68% and add 2.29%, I would get the 70.29, and if I would subtract 2.29, I get the 65.71%. So again, in this type of problem, you're going to have to go backwards through the problem. If you want to look through the notes and see how to use the formulas, you can.